Well, we begin with those latest on those devastating southern storms from Kentucky to the Gulf Coast. This morning, thousands of people are waking up in the dark after tornadoes ripped through homes, toppled trees, and left a trail of destruction in their wake. At least 7 people have been killed, including a 5-year-old boy in Butts County, Georgia. The 6 other deaths were reported in Alabama, which face a brunt of these storms.
Take a look at this video. You can see a funnel cloud forming in the sky just northwest of Montgomery. Farther south near Mobile, neighbors in one community say they didn't have much time to react before the twister hit. In Selma, a tornado lifted debris as high as 16,000 feet into the air. The mayor there says that the storms caused significant damage, and that is where our team coverage begins with NBC News correspondent Blaine Alexander.
Well, guys, good morning to you. This is just a stunning look right now at downtown Selma, Alabama. I mean, if you look behind me, you see this debris pile, but really our cameras can't even barely capture how big it is. Over here, you can see an entire wall of a building has just been ripped off. Even when we were driving in this morning, we had to be rerouted because there were power poles in the road. There were pieces, there were stoplights out. Clearly, this area has no power. This is just one part of Alabama, really one part of the South that was hit so hard by these brutal storms. Already reports of more than 36 tornadoes across the South, 7 deaths, and officials tell us that as they continue to go through piles like these, as they continue to look through the debris, there is concern that that death toll could possibly rise today. Now, this is also notable because, as you know, we're in the middle of January. This is in the middle of winter. We're going to spend the day talking to people, finding out how they were able to respond to this. But again, just a devastating tragedy. And also those images of the tornado that came through here, certainly unbelievable, very strong. And you can see that by the damage here, guys.
Alexander, Blaine, thank you so much. For more on this, we are now joined by Ernie Baggett. He is the Emergency Management Agency Director of hard-hit Otaga County. Ernie, thank you so much for joining us. We'll note you're in your car right now, but you're not driving. You're in a safe position. This is a county that is really located between Selma, where we just saw Blaine, and Montgomery. What's the situation like in your county this morning?
Well, we're going back out this morning. That's where I'm headed to now. We're starting our search back up again this morning to make sure that we have everyone accounted for. We have we're thinking right now about 40 homes that have either been completely destroyed or have been damaged to a point where no one can stay in them anymore. So we're trying to get out there, get some assessments on that, and do those searches, those final searches, and make sure that we haven't missed anything or anyone.
Of the 7 deaths reported from these storms so far in the South, at least 6 of them are actually in your county. You say you're going back out there this morning as the lights come on, as the sun rises. Are you worried there could be more, or do you feel and hope everyone's been accounted for?
Well, we certainly hope that there is no more, but we just don't have that accountability piece that we need right now to make us feel comfortable with it. Normally, when something like this would happen, you can speak to the neighbors and ask if the people were home next door, or if those homes were occupied. We've not had that opportunity because the residents of those areas have not been able to get back in there. So we're hoping today to be able to make contact and find out, and then just go back through if there are any concerned areas and make sure that we haven't missed anything.
Some of the videos that we have seen from Alabama and from other parts of the South have just been devastating. Paint a picture for us. What is it you have seen driving around throughout the night? Have you seen anything like this before in your county?
I haven't, no. We've got about a 20-mile track is what we're thinking right now. The storm that hit us was the same one that hit Selma. The Weather Service did really good. We were able to track it all the way through. They warned ahead of time, so we were able to watch that as it moved through. But that was the same storm there. Again, it tracked across our county, and very much like what you see, the pictures in Selma and everywhere else, that's what we're seeing. It's complete devastation. There's a couple of our county roads that there's only 1 or 2 homes left that may be livable.
You say people were warned ahead of time. How were people warned? How much notice did they get?
I don't know the exact number on the notice. I know that the Weather Service was tracking this particular storm as it moved through Selma. They warned it in Selma. They give us a heads up that it would be potentially moving into our county. They warned it that way. So weather radios were working just as they should. We were using those weather sirens, which are, really intended for outdoor use. But that, along with our local meteorologists and news channels, they were really on top of it yesterday.
All right, Ernie Baggett with Watauga County, thank you so much for taking some time to join us this morning. We are thinking of your community.
Thank you.
And we want to continue our coverage with the severe conditions across the southeast.
Yeah, meteorologist Michelle Grossman is in for Angie this morning and has the latest. Hey, Michelle.
Hey there, guys. Great to see you. And yeah, the Severe Protection Center put out this forecast early yesterday, even the day before. They made it increase it to enhanced risk early yesterday morning. So that was out. The information was out. We had 35 tornado reports. It doesn't mean we had 35 tornadoes. The National Weather Service has to get in there, survey the damage. As Ernie mentioned, one tornado went 20 miles. Tornadoes can go hundreds of miles. So they're going to get in there and determine just how many, just how big it was. A lot of times you can determine maybe the size of the storm by how far the debris goes aloft into the air. And we have seen debris going pretty high. So maybe even an EF3, EF4 tornado. That is a strong tornado, especially in January. But we will certainly keep you posted on that. That was a lot of tornado reports yesterday. It was a busy, active day. We were seeing these storms as early as our shows yesterday, lasting throughout the afternoon into the evening hours. So it was an all-day event. And just another note, this is the same storm that came through the Pacific on Monday. It tracked cross country by Thursday, causing this severe weather. The good news is we're waking up this morning to just plain rain. It is heavy at times in some spots, and you can see that cold front is nearly off the coast. We have the tail end in the portions of Florida. Then we have some cold air working on the backside. That's bringing some snow in parts of the Northeast. Otherwise, we're not looking at lightning. We're not looking at severe weather this morning. We're starting to see it transitioning into a cold weather type event. So as we zoom in a little closer here, where you see those yellows, the reds, the oranges, that's where we're seeing the heaviest rain falling. So we're certainly seeing some heavy rain falling still in portions of the Northeast, especially in upstate New York, into portions of New England. Seeing the blue also, we could see up to a foot of snow in the far north portions of Maine, also a couple inches along the Great Lakes. That's going to be the story throughout the day. So here's your winter alerts. We do have them up along the Appalachians, along the Great Lakes, into portions of Maine as well. We have a flood watch too. So 9 million people impacted by these alerts this morning. And we're going to see quite a bit of snow in some spots. This is good news for the snow lovers. We're snow deprived in the Northeast, so portions of Maine and the Great Lakes, we're going to see additional snowfall there. We're going to see the temperatures dropping as well. We're already seeing that in the Southeast. Atlanta, 48 degrees. That's 6 degrees below normal. That's the forecast for today. 55 in Tallahassee. Still warm in Philadelphia early on. Norfolk, too, 59. But notice what happens. That cold front completely clears the coast, and by tomorrow, we're back to near average temperatures. D.C., 41 degrees. That's 3 degrees below average. And then we're going to rebound really nicely next week by Monday in D.C. back into the 50s, into the mid-40s in New York City. So that is the East Coast. Also watching the West Coast. We have a trio of storms, one today, one tomorrow, one on Sunday. Tomorrow's going to be a powerful one. We're looking at the chance for very heavy rain once again, some heavy mountain snow, feet of snow once again. And we could see up to 4 or 5 inches of rain in some spots. So as a result, 15 million people are impacted in the state of California. We're concerned about landslides. We're concerned about mudslides, and we're concerned about washed out roadways once again. So the concern for California is coming back. Let's end it here because we have so many burn scar areas from the wildfire season. And this is why we're concerned about the landfalls. We really just don't have that vegetation that's going to soak up that water. It's going to bring that debris field down. And we're going to be watching this very closely all weekend long. Back to you guys.
Yeah, a lot of severe weather across the country. Michelle, thank you. Now to Washington and the latest on the investigation into classified marked documents connected to President Biden that have now been found in 2 different locations. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed a special counsel to review the classified material found in Biden's Delaware home and a Washington office he used after leaving the Obama White House. The first batch of documents were found last November before the midterm election, but the discovery wasn't made public until this week. Those documents are under review by the Justice Department. Garland discussed the appointment yesterday with reporters.
I signed an order appointing Robert Hur as special counsel for the matter I've just described. The document authorizes him to investigate whether any person or entity violated the law in connection with this matter.
And for the latest, let's bring in NBC News correspondent Julia Ainsley and White House correspondent Carol Lee. Good morning to you both. Carol, let's start with you. The president spoke about the documents yesterday, fielded a lot of questions from reporters. What do we know about them, and what did he say?
Well, what we know so far is actually very little. We know where they were found. We know there were 3 different occasions in which the president's legal team discovered these documents. The White House counsel's office says that there's a small number of documents that were found at the president's home in Wilmington, Delaware. We know from our own reporting that the documents that were found on November 2nd at the president's office that he had after he left the vice presidency, that there were fewer than a dozen documents there. And now we're learning that one of the documents at that office that was found is labeled TSSCI. So that's a very high classification. The others, we're told, were not as high of a classification. As for what the president has said about this, when he was asked about this yesterday, he continued to say that his White House and his team will fully cooperate. Take a listen.
They discovered a small number of documents of classified markings in storage areas and file cabinets in my home and my personal library. This was done in the case of the Biden-Penn. This was done in the case of the Biden-Penn Center. The Department of Justice was immediately, as was done, the Department of Justice was immediately notified, and the lawyers arranged for the Department of Justice to take possession of the document.
Now, the president continues to say that he takes classified information very seriously. At the same time, we've seen him sort of downplay this. He said, you know, yes, these documents were locked in a garage next to his Corvette at his home in Wilmington, but it's not like they were out there in the street. And as for the president's legal team, we've heard from the White House counsel's office after that special counsel was named by the Justice Department that this is something that these documents wound up in these boxes that the president took after he left the Obama administration by mistake.
And Julia, the other big headline yesterday was the appointment of this new special counsel, Robert Hur, a former U.S. attorney for Maryland. So what more do we know about him and his selection?
That's right. Robert Hur was the U.S. attorney in Maryland under the Trump administration. He was a Trump pick. He served from 2018 until February 2021, just as President Biden was coming into office. I think that's important context here because Merrick Garland and the appointment of a special counsel wants to show he's not picking one of his own here. Robert Hur has a long reputation. He also served as number 2 to Rod Rosenstein when he was deputy attorney general, when he was overseeing special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation, because then Attorney General Jeff Sessions had recused himself. And this appointment is really for Garland to show independence here. He also says it's because the U.S. attorney in the Northern District of Illinois, John Lausch, is now moving on to the private sector. He had previously been overseeing the preliminary investigation into these documents. But in an effort to show the independence of this investigation, as well as the independence of the investigation into Trump's handling of classified documents, he thinks a special counsel appointment is necessary. Here's the reasons he gave yesterday. Take a listen.
This appointment underscores for the public the department's commitment to both independence and accountability in particularly sensitive matters, and to making decisions indisputably guided only by the facts and the law.
So you can see there is a lot of questions about, is the appointment of a special counsel necessarily meaning that this investigation has gone up and is more serious? There's so much we don't know about these documents or what might be in them. But the Attorney General is clearly saying the reason for this is independence. We're not learning a whole lot about what U.S. Attorney Lausch might have told Merrick Garland that prompted the appointment of Robert Hur.
And Carol, obviously the spotlight is on these documents. A special counsel investigation will no doubt be a distraction for the White House. How is the administration preparing to handle this while still trying to move forward with the president's agenda?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a huge distraction for this White House. This is a president that's, by all accounts, getting ready to announce that he's running for re-election and to launch a 2024 campaign. And this is a huge political headache for them. Also, notable that there are aides to the president who worked for him as vice president in those closing weeks of his vice presidency who are likely to be interviewed as part of this investigation. We know from our own reporting, Mike Memoli, that there have already been Biden aides who were interviewed in this preliminary review that was done of these documents, including an executive assistant to the president who was when he was vice president, who works at the Pentagon. There are a number of officials in the White House who also worked for him as vice president. And so this is something that's going to be a big distraction. We now also have this situation where you have the president's only declared opponent, former President Donald Trump, who has a special counsel looking into his handling of classified information. And now you have the president who has his own special counsel looking into classified information. And that is a narrative that's really going to be a struggle for the White House to get around.
All right. I'm sure we'll be following this in the days and weeks to come. Carol and Julia, thanks so much.
We'll keep following it and dig a little deeper into all this with NBC News legal analyst Danny Cevallos. Danny, good morning to you. So first of all, tell us a little bit about the role of a special counsel in this situation. What exactly is Robert Hur going to be looking for?
By now, we are all familiar with special counsels. Yeah. We've had a host of special counsels over the last 5 years or so. And really, this is going to be an immediate 4-point plan. Number one, find out what U.S. Attorney Loesch learned during his investigation. That will be helpful. But then find out what documents were taken, what were their classification. There are reports that some were classified TS, SCI. That's not good for Biden. That's the highest level of classification. But he needs to ascertain the universe of documents and then find out how they got there, because that's critical to determining what responsibility Biden has. And it's the same analysis for Trump and the Mar-a-Lago documents, although there are marked differences, and I'm sure we'll get into those. But at least for the moment, the Biden inquiry is going to be, how did the documents get there? Because right now, it appears that once they were discovered, that the steps were taken to alert the proper authorities.
You mentioned President Trump. Obviously, there are a lot of comparisons with the documents found at the Mar-a-Lago estate. What would you say are the differences as far as the investigation between a former president and a sitting president? For both Trump and Biden, one of the commonalities is that we don't know exactly how the documents got from the White House to each's respective home. But what we do know about the major differences are what happened once the documents were discovered. We've all discussed the marked differences between the National Archives going to Trump and saying, we need these documents back, and the Trump team fighting tooth and nail. Whereas with Biden, it appears that once they were discovered, they were turned over. Now, that doesn't affect that there might have been something wrong about how the documents got from the White House to Biden's garage. And I just have to say, probably not a good look for Biden to say something like, hey, they're in my garage. It's not like they're out in the middle of the street. His team has done a good job so far of alerting, following the process, letting the National Archives know, and being forthcoming. Biden's got to be really careful not to make glib remarks about, no biggie, they're in my garage. Because most of us with garages know that the garage is not the most secure facility in our home. Now, most of us are Manhattan dwellers. We don't have garages. But those of us that do realize that the garage is not where you put your most valuable items. So not a good look. He should stick with his advisors, who really so far appear to have done everything right. So real quickly, if the special counsel finds that the law was violated here, what are the potential consequences for the president? There are potential criminal consequences for taking documents from the White House to your home. I mean, people have been prosecuted for this in the past. It's interesting, though, in situations where people immediately alert, hey, I've got these classified documents, I didn't know about it. One of the consequences is often administrative. They revoke that person's security clearance. You can't really do that with the sitting president. So that's an administrative remedy that is simply unavailable. Another interesting philosophical discussion is, what if Biden, and I don't think he'd do this, what if he waved his hand and declassified these documents now? It wouldn't affect that they were classified at the time, but it really would practically affect the investigation. It's a hypothetical that probably will never come to fruition. Were Trump in the White House, that would not be a hypothetical. He would do it. As he said he did with the documents in Mar-a-Lago. So there you go. Benedicted them, or whatever it is. All right, Danny Cevallos, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Let's turn our attention now to Capitol Hill, where House Republicans are cranking up the pressure on fellow Congressman George Santos.
Yeah, more Republicans are now calling for Santos to resign after the newly elected representative admitted to fabricating parts of his background in the lead up to the 2022 midterms. For more on this, we are joined by NBC News congressional correspondent Julie Sirkin and NBC News correspondent George Solis, who's in Santos's district on Long Island, New York. Julie, let's start with you. Who are the latest folks to call for Santos to step down? What are they saying?
Yeah, look, well, I think it's notable that after yesterday, all House freshman Republican members have now called on Santos to resign. Remember, they are part of the same freshman class. Many of them actually were able to flip their districts, including Santos. And I think it's notable for what they had to say and why they think Santos should resign and it's time. Take a listen to what two of them had to say, and we'll talk about it more on the other side.
He's lost the confidence of people in his own community. So I think he needs to seriously consider whether or not he can actually do his job effectively. And right now, it's pretty clear he can't.
I don't think there's any way he could possibly perform his duty. But the man's got to be honest with himself and his constituents. And it's just clear to me that he can't do his job.
Now, that was Congressman Molinaro. You saw at the end there. In the beginning, that was Congressman Lawler. He actually ended up releasing a statement later in the night saying it is time for him to resign. And this comes after the Nassau County Republicans, the local Republican Party that actually helped Santos get to this place. They forcefully called on Santos to resign, saying that he lied and fabricated everything about him and has disgraced his voters.
And George, so far, Santos has refused to resign. Has his position changed at all in light of all these calls from his fellow Republicans to do so?
Yeah, good morning, Kathy. You'd be surprised, right? You would think that after hearing all of that from members on the Hill, he would actually take those steps to resign. But he is digging his heels, saying he has no plans to resign. And as he's been on the Hill, he's been avoiding questions about some of those fabrications and falsehoods, and including some about his campaign finances. But yesterday, NBC News actually was able to get Santos really quickly on an elevator where he said he would resign if 142 people told him to do so. Of course, he later clarified that point on Steve Bannon's War Room. Take a listen.
I came here to serve the people, not politicians and party leaders, and I'm going to do just that. And I've been doing just that throughout this entire first 2 weeks, whether it was voting for the speaker or whether it's been the last week where we've been working on legislation in my office. So, I wish well all of their opinions, but I was elected by 142,000 people. Until those same 142,000 people tell me they don't want me, we'll find out in 2 years.
Yeah, during that interview, Matt Gaetz, who was there interviewing Santos, asked him, all right, let's talk about some of those campaign finances. Where did they come from? And you'll notice he actually didn't answer the question, just saying, I'll tell you where it didn't come from. It didn't come from Ukraine, didn't come from China. So, again, there's certain things that he is excluding, which is, again, shaking the confidence of some of his constituents here in Nassau County.
Yeah, so, George, as we heard right there, he appears to be putting his fate in the hands of the 142,000 people who voted for him. How are they reacting to all of this where you are?
Yeah, Joe, it's a mixed bag. You have people who are his supporters who are going to say, hey, listen, what we've heard, that's fine. We want him to do his time in Congress. We want him to see what he'll do for us. But then you have others, including members of the GOP, as you heard Julie mention, the chairman of the GOP here in Nassau County, Joe G. Cairo, saying, you are not going to be an effective leader. It is time for you to step down. And, of course, we're going to spend the day here in Nassau County talking to more constituents and getting more reaction to see if people here do, in fact, want him to stay or go. It should be an interesting turnout, to say the least. Guys?
And, Julie, going back to you, do we know if Santos is likely to face the Ethics Committee? And what's leadership saying right now?
Well, that's the interesting thing here, because Republican leadership is actually saying, give him a chance. Let's, the people elected him. Let's see what he's going to do. He's part of the GOP conference. He was sworn in last week. And the reality here is that McCarthy, the speaker, needs his vote. And Santos supported McCarthy for his speakership. So, look, he is facing the Ethics Committee. That's because House Democrats from New York actually filed a complaint. So the Ethics Committee is currently looking into him. And McCarthy said as much. But he also said he'll be held accountable exactly as anybody else in this body would. But we will let that investigation play out. And I should know that other members of McCarthy's leadership, including Elise Stefanik from New York, actually said Santos should not resign and he should serve his time because he was elected. But I think bottom line here, it all comes down to the votes McCarthy has with that slim majority he was able to win in November. Really, every vote here counts. And Santos, coming from a +8 Biden district, would be a dangerous one to lose.
All right, Julie Surkin and George Solis, thanks so much.
Sad news overnight. Lisa Marie Presley, the daughter of rock and roll legend Elvis Presley, has passed away. Her mother, Priscilla, made the announcement in a statement saying the family is, quote, shocked and devastated by the tragic death of their beloved Lisa Marie. Hours before her death, Priscilla confirmed her daughter had been rushed to the hospital. Paramedics were sent to a home in Calabasas, California earlier that morning after receiving calls that a woman was not breathing. The news came just 2 days after Lisa Marie attended the Golden Globe Awards, where she celebrated Austin Butler's win for portraying her father in the movie Elvis. Lisa Marie Presley was 54 years old.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.